Welcome back to Buried Cinema. I'm Nate.
I'm Steve.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
I'm Annie Laurie.
Buried Cinema is a weekly unscripted podcast that likes to do new and buried films. This week we're talking about Brave, the new film from Pixar, and The Secret of Kells, which was an Oscar-nominated film back in 2009.
So is it buried?
I would call
Yes.
it buried.
Yeah.
I've never heard of
without
it.
a doubt.
It's nominated for an
I would call it
Oscar. It's kind of...
But
That doesn't mean anything.
That doesn't mean much.
A lot of them are,
Yeah.
you know, you watch the Oscars and you hear about all these that are nominated and you're going, really? I've never heard of it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
Cat in Paris and Chico and Rita were nominated for Oscars.
That's true.
Yeah, and
That
we
means
did
that's
those.
part of-
Mainstream
Yeah, that's
America
Oscar.
doesn't know about it.
Yeah. Most people will still... Those were maybe...
it wasn't Kung Fu Panda.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, honestly, if a movie doesn't break $100 million, it can pretty easily become buried.
Yeah.
It can become forgotten. Brave is the... Obviously, Pixar releases a movie pretty much every year now. This is their first one that stars a young kind of princess, a woman. It's about a Princess Merida who is determined to make her own path in life and doesn't want to be the traditional Disney princess. And it's really about her relationship with her mom. She's clashing with her mom, and it's about that family and what do you do with a girl who doesn't want to be what society wants her to be.
Like all 12-year-olds.
Yeah, like all 12-year-olds. Yeah, exactly.
I got
Well-
5 years.
What did you think about it, Annie Laurie? We're going to turn to you to start us off for your review of Brave, because if you guys don't know, Annie Laurie hasn't been on in a while. We were hanging out with Annie Laurie, and she demanded to be on the podcast. She said that we had to kick Tom off.
I blackmailed them into
Yeah, she picked Tom, so that Tom had to leave. Tom couldn't be on the podcast, and that she had to be on the podcast because we had to have a...
They're not allowed to be in the same room together.
Yeah.
it. Because we're the same person, right?
Yeah.
Matter and antimatter, those flow. Yeah.
No, I've done a podcast with him. I was really excited about this movie because it has a female protagonist. It looked like a strong female character, and I was a little disappointed that it was so cliche. Like,
what was cliche about it?
That the thing that she was fighting against was getting married.
Right, but
Like,
I enjoyed that because isn't that the classic
That's
princess
a classic
story?
Disney story. There was.
Right.
I actually found that interesting. There was never a romantic interest. That was never. That,
I thought she was
You
going to fall in
expect
love
there
with
to
the
be
bear.
like some. You expect there to be some sort of.
Beauty and the Beast.
There's all these like doofuses that she
Right.
obviously, and then like the one guy who's a peasant or something like that she really loves. That never came into it at all. I actually found that refreshing.
I did like that aspect of it. I did. But I felt like, I mean, she's a tomboy, which is fairly classic.
Mm-hmm.
She refuses to do anything that she refuses to be who they want her to be, which is fine, but I felt like they did it in a very cliche way.
Is the tomboy very classic, or is that just... I mean, because you look back, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty...
Okay,
Cinderella.
Anything since the mid
Mulan,
80s to
to some
early
extent,
90s,
yeah.
They've gone away from that prissy, strong female to the
Tomboy.
self-sufficient tomboy.
They swung all the way in the other direction. I felt like it wasn't very balanced. Like, she could have been a girl who wore dresses sometimes and was pretty sometimes and knew how to embroider, and it could also shoot everything. Like, they went all the way in the other direction, which I felt is very cliche. Like, it's been done a lot of times. Mulan is maybe the prime example of a Disney princess who can do everything that a boy can do and goes off and saves the world when nobody wants her to. Same kind of an idea here.
What did you think about this as far as the Disney princess kind of idea, Brian?
Well, I wasn't so much upset about that area. I mean, the princess being a princess, not wanting to get married because she was betrothed to someone, it's a story. I felt like it wasn't that aspect of the story that bothered me. It was other aspects I felt like I could just pick out and saw them coming. And I was like, okay, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. And that kind of pulled me out of the movie a lot. And I
it was predictable.
It was predictable, and I started noticing myself in the theater going like this instead of looking at the screen. and it pulled me out.
I think part of it, at least for me, I partially agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think it was a really good movie, and I enjoyed it a lot. But it wasn't a Pixar like just
Masterpiece.
blowing everything away.
Mhm.
Every Pixar did, Toy Story that changed everything, and then they did. Well, then they did Bug's Life, and then they did.
That was good.
Then they did Ratatouille. Ratatouille came. Or wait, which came first? Ratatouille
Monsters
or
Inc. Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo. They did Finding Nemo,
Well,
and that.
they showed the re-release of the 3D.
Yeah,
Finding
and I was
Nemo,
like,
which
oh my
reminded
God,
me
I wanna go
of
see that.
How good it was, yeah.
And then Ratatouille, which changed everything, and then Wall-E, and then Up.
yeah.
So this wasn't like let's turn everything on its head and do something that nobody would imagine making a kids movie like this. This didn't quite have that. So if this was from another production company,
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have been like, wow, that's amazing.
If it
But I
were
was
a
like,
DreamWorks film,
yeah,
Mhm.
probably like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
But this is Pixar. I can't help
You
but
set
hold
the-
them to a
I was
higher
gonna say,
standard.
It sounds like you set the bar really high
Yeah.
for them, and you want that 9th or 10th or just the next best unique
Every
thing.
movie from them needs to
Right.
revolutionize the way animated films are made, which is
That's
unfair.
hard.
You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely unfair.
It's really-
But
You know what I think?
they've set that expectation for
Right.
themselves.
You know what I think would have been interesting is if Pixar and Disney had switched on their animated films for this year. If Pixar is the one coming out with Wreck-It Ralph,
Yeah.
and Disney comes out
Well,
with
here's
Brave,
here's the
because
issue.
this is
Yeah.
standard Disney movie. This is
Right,
princess centric,
yeah.
and if Pixar had started that. Wreck-It Ralph is an interesting.
Pixar
That
is
looks
really-
incredible.
Whatever you want to say, Pixar's releasing that because the person that's the head of Disney Animation is John Lasseter.
Mhm.
He's the head of Pixar. So if at this point, if it's released by Disney Animation, John Lasseter has still signed off on it, and there's so much crossover between the two of them.
Yeah.
Tangled from last year, you could see Pixar's like fingers in it. So it's Bolt is the same kind of way. But
Oh, yeah.
I think Wreck-It Ralph looks a lot more original. I was pleased with this film. I agree with Brian. There are times when it was really predictable.
Mhm.
So you saw that the bear was the guy before it even
Yes.
happened.
Yeah.
You saw that even with the trailers, I think the trailers kind of gave too much away. You knew that the
What
kids were going to become little bears.
You knew the
Yeah.
kids were going to become little bears. What the trailers didn't give away, and what I found was really pleasant about this film, and I would love to talk to. I think we could get something from Annie Laurie, but was the relationship. This is a rare film with its daughter and mom.
Yeah, that's not something you see very often.
That's the plot.
Where
That's
it's
what
a
I really
positive.
appreciated. That yeah.
You see daughter-mom relationships,
Where
but
they're
they're not
fighting,
very positive.
Like 13 going on 30.
Yeah.
Right.
Where they
You
hate
know?
each other.
And,
you
but
know?
and this is
No
the thing
way.
where that's the princess story.
Stepmother.
Is that it's and the king and the men kind of they take a back seat to this. This is really a film that's about what does it mean to be a daughter and what does it mean to be a mother and that relationship and building something positive out of it.
I felt like that was
Yeah.
handled really well.
Yes.
Because they showed that both of them still love the other person. They both had the other person's best interest in mind as far as they could understand it. And they were complaining that they weren't listening to each other. But that they also weren't understanding where the other person was coming from.
Mhm.
And it took the mom getting transformed into this kind of needing to have the skills that her daughter had to understand where her daughter was coming from.
Yeah.
And I felt like she matured a lot more than the daughter did over the
Yeah.
course of the story.
Mm-hmm. She learned a lot more than and her
Because
daughter
she was
basically
forced
needs to
into
come
it.
to terms with asking for forgiveness and
Well,
being willing
and-
to listen to her mother.
Well,
Yeah.
I think for the daughter, the key scene is when she walks into the middle of all those fighting men
Oh,
and
yeah.
makes them stop.
and makes them stop.
And realizes the power that she has as a woman over all of these men,
Mm-hmm.
and realizes what her mother's been trying to teach her.
Yeah.
And
Do
so
you,
I
do you
think
think
they
that's a
both come
positive
together.
idea to posit that that's a woman's power in society? That their ability
I kind of
is
wondered
that
about
the
that because
relationship?
I mean we haven't got into this yet, but the production troubles of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Pixar's first female director was fired from it.
We should say they've been getting some negative press for that, but there's as far as evidence goes, nobody knows why she was
Nobody
fired.
knows why. They've been
Nothing's come
very like classy about it. They're
Yes.
not like, well, she, bad, So they're like, well, there's creative differences. It's between us and her. We're not gonna like. So I don't know who knows why or what happened, but it feels like to me maybe they thought this is a pro-feminist story, and she was like, well, not really. And then that's where the creative differences are, because it's sort of like, well, yeah, women are really good at making men do the work, so it's like that's not a pro-feminist story, and that's
or keeping men
story,
from killing
but-
each other. I felt like it was very
that's like women are strong at holding men up, that's basically the story.
right. Yeah, I felt like it was very pro-feminist for the period that it was set
Yeah.
in,
That's
but not
interesting.
for now,
Yeah.
not for today.
I think it would. This could be a film that could really speak to young women, young girls who are struggling with that little sense of even that simple idea like my mom doesn't listen to me, my mom doesn't care, anything like that. I think it'd be really positive, and I think it actually got better as it went on.
Yeah.
I think it looks cool at the beginning, but as it grows, I think it's better. And I thought the ending was absolutely fantastic. This is the question: Disney, Brave or Sleeping Beauty? And Sleeping Beauty has that interesting animation style that we'll talk a little bit about with Secret of the Kells. Secret of the Kells. I know.
Kells of the Ireland.
I'll tell you what, the soundtrack for Brave was excellent,
Yes.
and Sleeping Beauty just stole Tchaikovsky.
Well,
It's
they didn't
literally
steal it.
the
They just
ballet.
used it. Yeah, they just. Was
Actually-
there anything wrong with that?
No,
I mean, yeah.
So I'm going to put out
necessarily,
just
but-
right away, I'm going Sleeping Beauty.
I'm
Easy.
going Brave.
The animation of Sleeping Beauty was a huge departure. Like, nobody had ever done anything like that before.
Yeah.
So for its time, it was amazing innovation in animation. They used like a specific artist's style
Right.
and copied that, and nobody had thought to do that for an animated film before. And just the darkness of it, which hadn't really been explored before. Just everything. I don't know. I
don't know if I
absolutely,
agree with you with that.
I
I mean, it's very dark.
yeah.
But
For
I
a children's
love it.
film, it's extremely dark,
And,
right?
and that's
Yeah.
one of the problems I have with it. For a children's film, most kids don't want to watch it more than once
It's really scary.
because it's
It is scary.
scary.
The scene
it's
where she's
not
talking about how he's
fun.
gonna go grow old and
Yeah.
go to the castle as an old man. That's a heart-wrenching scene.
No, I
Yeah, it gave me nightmares as a kid,
yeah,
didn't
I
care
love
for it.
but it's still a better movie.
And I think I even own it.
you're gonna put it over Brave.
Yeah,
Mm.
I liked Brave more, but Sleeping
Yeah.
Beauty is a better film.
Yeah.
Brian,
I think Brave is gonna.
I
I
like
think I'm
Brave
going to
right
side
here.
with Sleeping Beauty on this one also.
Sleeping Beauty. Why? Why are we going Sleeping Beauty?
I don't know. I just feel like
Because I'm kicking
Your
him
inner
under the
woman is
table.
telling
Yeah.
you.
that's not my leg. That's the table leg. I don't know. I just that just seems like the princess movie. It
Yeah.
just seems like
Everything started.
everything started from this, even though everything
She's the
started
original Disney
Even more
princess.
than Snow White.
even more than Snow White. Yeah.
That seems to
Yeah.
have more the traditional princess story, maybe. But I don't know. My biggest problem with Sleeping Beauty is that Sleeping Beauty does nothing. Like
She walks
kinda
around
tells
in
you
the
in the
forest.
title.
No,
I know.
Well, no, and she does. I mean,
As
she's
a character, she.
no, that's not till later. She's in the forest and she's being forbidden to go. I mean, it's almost the same thing. She's
Why-
being
look at
forbidden to
Shrek.
go out, and she goes out anyway, and it's actually very similar story,
Right.
except she falls asleep.
Look
Yeah.
at Shrek though. When they portray her, what is she? She's always sleeping on somebody. And she's, she's the butt of everybody else's joke in that movie. Come on.
She is. She's the, and that's my biggest problem with it. But I don't know if I could put it over Brave, and I don't think I would, because Sleeping Beauty itself has classic status.
Well, if we're comparing just the
Yeah.
protagonist, then Brave is better.
Brave has a much better
I mean,
protagonist.
Yeah.
she's much
Yeah.
more interesting than Sleeping Beauty.
But
and much
Sleeping
more
Beauty has a
relevant.
better supporting cast.
Yeah, and it's a better movie. Mhm,
Sleeping Beauty is a much more important film,
yeah.
for sure.
And I think Brave is going to be one of those Pixar. It's going to be I don't
Bugs
know
Life.
quite as Bugs Life. I don't know if it's going to be quite that low, but although Bugs Life's good, but
Right, it's one of these things where it'll
Yeah.
be in there with like Bugs Life, Monsters
Cars.
Inc., Cars.
it's going
Which
to be
aren't
one.
bad
Of,
movies.
it's going to be one of their.
No.
Oh yeah, that one's good too.
They made that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's not going to be an iconic, generational hit.
No.
So
Yeah.
Maybe not. Who knows? Watch. In a couple of days, it's going to be like the biggest movie of all time.
I'll go a lot more.
Are our problems nitpicky, or are they genuine problems with the film that hurt the film?
I think it's nitpicky because I know from a technology point of view, I noticed a number of times throughout the movie you could see the technology is getting so much better.
Her hair.
Her hair.
They spent 3 years.
Facial expressions
they spent 3
are getting
years
so much better.
making 2 programs. One to control the movement of her hair.
Right.
The other one to make sure the movement of her hair matches the movement of her body.
Yeah.
So they spent 3
it's
years
phenomenal.
making her hair.
Some women
They
spend
did
that
an
long.
amazing... Yeah, what stereotype are we perpetuating there? Thanks, Pixar!
But I mean, what I love to see with this, and I look forward to it almost as much as I do for a unique storyline, is to see the advances in the technology and to see how seamless, no pun intended, it's getting there between animation and live action. I mean, I can remember when Monsters, Inc. first came out, watching the extras on the DVD and seeing the effort they went through for Sully's hair.
Right.
I mean, it was insane to watch that stuff.
At the end of this, when she's with her mom and she's crying,
Oh my goodness.
the way her face, like, it looked like a real face
Right.
crying. I've never seen that
that's-
before.
It made me cry. Just
I've
because
never-
that's
because you're.
I'm a little girl, but no, that
That's
and
on film.
and Kelly MacDonald's acting, that scene
Tell
to
McDonald's
me,
accent.
it brought me to tears because you did see a real girl crying, and I was just thinking like this is a sense of at this point I really connect with that character because that's a young girl who just wants her mother. That's all.
It's
and
the
that's
first.
why I just started bawling.
It's the first time where I've seen very realistic facial expressions in like Polar Express and even the Final Fantasy movie, but they're always creepy.
Yeah.
This was the first time I saw it and it seemed human.
That's because it didn't look human enough.
Maybe, yeah.
That's the problem with the other.
But it looked,
those movies,
realistic.
It looked realistic.
It looked like a
but
real expression.
It was a real expression, but it wasn't human.
Right.
It was like
It was
a
still-
toy.
Yeah.
And that was really the difference. I think my problems with the movie were problems with the movie. They if I get drawn out of the movie noticing things that, okay, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is really predictable, that's a problem with the movie. But I still think it looks fantastic. I'm not going to say anything other than that.
Okay, well then, if we have some, all right. Unless you guys have anything to add, good. No. All right, we're gonna talk about the Secret of Kells next. All right, so the buried movie we watched was the Secret of Kells.
The Secret Book of the Kells.
The Secret Book of the Kells, which we always say wrong because there's the Book of Kells, which is an famous illuminated manuscript.
Which is gorgeous. I've seen it.
Yeah.
The original? Cool.
Gorgeous.
It's the animated story of the boy behind the Book of Kells, of the young boy who finished it, as far as the legend of its creation goes. If you don't know what an illuminated manuscript is, you got this on the internet, go to Wikipedia. We don't have time to tell
Go
you.
to Wikipedia, Book of Kells. There you go. You're done.
Yeah. It's complicated to explain what an illuminated manuscript is without taking 5 minutes, so we're not going to do that. But it's a medieval form of writing that took a very long time. It was normally done in monasteries by abbots and friars and people of that sort. This movie lost to Up back in 2009, but it was an Oscar-nominated film. That was the first time I'd ever heard of it. It has a very unique animation style, which is in that it's animated like an illuminated manuscript. And we're going to turn, to some extent, we're going to talk about that. We're going to turn to Brian to kick us off.
I absolutely love this movie.
Yay! That's 2. I win 2.
What? No, you don't. I was going to see this movie before you even suggested it.
No, I suggested it. You loved it. You also liked Wrist Cutters. That's 2 for me.
Didn't you not like Risk Cutters? It doesn't matter.
I suggested it.
Yeah, you suggested it and didn't
2 out
like
of
it.
how many?
Yeah.
That's not the point.
I think he's batting like
Percentages. Yeah, wins a win.
20% or something.
I'm on a streak.
Okay, so
So I thought it was gorgeous. The story
I agree
was
with that, yeah.
was perfect. I will probably go out and buy this movie now, which is big thing for me. They actually go into my collection now. Back when I was younger, not so selective, but now if it goes into my DVD collection, awesome. I just think beautiful. Everything about it was beautiful.
From a Brian, if you guys don't know, he does most of our graphic design, and if there's anything artistic on our website, it's either his success or his fault. Because the rest of us don't do anything with it. That's not true. But from your background in graphic design, the art in this is very unique. How much do you think that affected your enjoying it? And
Probably 150% of it.
Okay.
The rest of you guys as well, how does that affect your viewing? Does that make you like it better?
I worked in graphic design for 10 years. And from that perspective, I really enjoyed all the backgrounds of this movie, but I was really annoyed by the characters. Except
Why?
for the girl. Because they were so, flat and square.
Well, yeah, because it's
But,
it's supposed to be showing they're literally on, a page.
Right, but the trees aren't. And, they're not... There's much more depth in the backgrounds than there is in the characters. There's shading in the backgrounds. There's not three-dimensionality, but there's depth. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot more detail in the backgrounds than in the characters. And it annoyed me the whole film. I loved the backgrounds. They were gorgeous, but the people were driving me crazy.
I'm going to bring up a television show. I don't know if everyone's seen it or not, but this movie reminded me of Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
I've not seen that.
With the outlined flat characters, and then the backgrounds are much more where the detail is.
Johnny Bravo.
No.
I remember Johnny Bravo. This is not Johnny Bravo.
No, the same kind of flat detail.
Yeah, but Johnny Bravo, I think they did that out of laziness.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's great.
Style.
So I felt like they carried through the illuminated manuscript style really, really well in the backgrounds and not well in the characters.
I don't know. I thought I'm with Brian. I love this movie. I saw it, and the first maybe 5 minutes, I was actually irritated with the style, and then once I started getting into it and realizing what they were doing, and I was blown away with everything in this movie. The story was incredible. For some reason, I missed the fact that they were actually talking about the actual Book of Kells.
It's because they called it the Book of Iona for the entirety of the movie. They called it the Book of Iona.
Until the very end when they called it the film.
Yeah, it was about maybe 30 minutes in the movie. I was like, oh, so this is, so, and I thought the relationship between him and the wood forest girl,
Asher.
Fairy, what is she? She's a
fairy.
Fairy?
I think she's a dryad.
Yeah, dryad.
I think she's a
That's
tree
the word.
spirit.
Yeah.
She's a dryad.
I thought it was really
Which is
nice.
why her name has ash in it.
Right.
I thought that was a really nice. Their relationship was really nice, and just the whole the way they brought the mythology of this sort of mystical book into something that's watchable and understandable. I thought it was amazing.
I loved the storyline of this movie. All of that critique of the art aside, I really, really loved the storyline of this movie. I love the questions that it asked about mysticism and old cultural beliefs, which are still created in stone in the place where you live, versus Christian beliefs and the austerity of monks who are missionaries to the pagans, that kind of a thing, and the way that the boy stood in both worlds.
Yeah.
The way that
Yeah,
he
that's
used the
interesting.
mystical beliefs of the Irish people to finish this book that was being created by monks.
And he literally lived in both worlds. He
Yeah.
passed between worlds by going out of that wall.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I think I'm
I
going to
loved
take
it.
Brian's role, though, and say I didn't like it.
Every Brian thing? Okay.
I was, for me, so distracted by the characters that it was hard for me to really get into it.
You didn't like Willie Nelson?
I found myself.
For me, Willie Nelson is a monster who lives in Shake's attic. So
It's just
sorry, Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Right?
I wish I knew more of the story of the Book of Kells before watching this movie. I think I would have been more interested in it. But not having that and just being exposed to the story for the first time, I got some really nice details, some really nice background. But honestly, I couldn't get past the people in it.
Yeah, I think the reason that I really liked it was because of all the references. It was because I know the Book of Kells, and I know the Irish mythology, and I know, that time period, and I know the Vikings, who weren't speaking Norwegian, by the way. They're speaking.
They were just
mumbling.
They were just supposed to be monsters.
They were like demons. Yeah.
They were monsters.
Yeah.
That's all.
Gold.
Right.
Yeah.
Although they were Norse Vikings, hypothetically.
Right.
Yeah.
But the reason that I really enjoyed it was all the rich depth of allusions to other things. And if you don't have that background, I can see how it would not be a very fun movie.
No, it was fun to watch. We all sat down and kids were watching it and they were glued to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it was a
that's
good
true.
movie, but
Something that I noticed while your kids were watching, because we watched it in a big group with the four of us, except for Brian.
Because he's not allowed to.
yeah,
He's not allowed near children. Yeah.
Because I hit them.
Yeah.
I'd like to make that distinction.
I did too.
Because
I'm
that's
allowed.
better.
But what were you going to say?
No,
about that?
I was gonna say it was really interesting to watch the kids react to it.
Right.
Because you really saw them go through the kind of emotions that the movie's trying to. It's scary.
It
It's a very
is.
Your
scary
kids were
movie.
really scared.
There are
There's
points where
times
your
when
kids
you
are,
the
They're
girl,
like, Daddy,
Yeah.
the girls we were watching with, they were frightened. And there's the moment when Ashley dies, and the girls are sitting there like, wait, no, she doesn't actually die, does she?
Right.
And you're like, no, of course she doesn't. Yeah.
Right. And it was great for them. I think
Sorry,
it got,
spoiler.
Yeah, I think it got the point across, or some points across to them, which was nice. And it was a good movie, but
Should this film have beaten Up?
Yes.
No.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
No.
Yes, I think so.
No.
No.
Yeah, no.
It's a good movie, but there's...
Up is
I'm
good for the first half. Then it just becomes no, let me rephrase that. Up is amazing in the first half. And the second half is a good movie. This
Right,
doesn't
so
have
it's
that
like-
So
problem.
this is a whole movie to me that's just good.
No,
Yeah.
wow.
I think it goes
This
back to
doesn't
setting
have
the bar
that
too high
punch. Yeah,
for-
it doesn't have that.
I feel like
Yeah.
this movie, if it had been made by Pixar,
Mm-hmm.
would have beaten Up. I feel like the
a better
storyline
storyline,
is
yeah.
much, much better. And it's much more important as a film. But Up was
The
so
storyline
much...
of Up is so unique.
But it's
yeah,
just
exactly.
a cute
Up was
storyline.
Yeah.
Up was so unique, and it was so, technologically it was great. It was unique. It flowed the whole way through. It was very unified.
It deals
felt-
with death. It deals with divorce.
Loss, yeah. Abandonment.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't...
Squirrels. Heavy topics.
But you can't watch it for history class. The Secret of
No, you
Kells,
can't.
really, the questions that it asks, philosophically, are much more important than the questions that Up asks. But it's not as popular. It's
But
not.
you have
it's
to
not
dig into
directed
those
towards-
questions.
Exactly.
It would be really hard. Up
I
brings
think-
those issues to fruition when children watch it.
Yeah.
Kids have to honestly think about it. The Book of Kells, as adults,
It's for adults.
we can ask those
Yeah.
questions. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. I think Up should have won. I mean, I agree
Yeah.
that Up should have won.
Mhm.
But I feel like if The Secret of Kells was done by somebody else,
Right.
it maybe would have been better.
You'd have to be careful, though, because I think one of the things that, as we were watching it, made me appreciate it more, and I think you'd mentioned it during the movie, was the fact that you said that it was done in the same style
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
the man. And I
I
think if you tried to get away from that, or not tried to get away from it, but if you didn't consciously keep that in mind when doing it like Pixar or some other big company would have done, I think you would have lost a lot that the movie brings.
Yeah,
I agree with you. Go ahead, Steve.
The Secret of Kells is an origin story of this book,
Mhm.
and so it kind of has to.
Well, then I
Like
can't wait
the-
for Secret of Kells too.
I know.
The Book of Kells.
No, we'll be saying it right all the time.
it has to like
Secret of Kells 2, Electric Boogaloo.
You're welcome.
the style is so much a part of this movie that I don't. For me, I can't separate it.
Well,
It is the story.
Hey, Brian's talking.
Yes,
No.
the art style is the story, which is why Pixar could not do this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Pixar would be like, CGI.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, bad Pixar.
I agree with you, but I think they got too caught up in following the art style and lost some of the story. Like, they asked really good questions and didn't follow through with them.
Because they made it 75 minutes long.
Mhm.
Well, that's true as well.
It is short.
It is
It's a
short.
quick movie, and I honestly feel like they could have given me 10 more minutes or so. That's about all it would take.
You know
Because
how hard
that's
it is
the
to
point.
draw those little things?
This is still computer animated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the
Which
thing that really...
It still takes a long time.
The
It's
thing that
very
really
hard to
gets
do.
me is that this guy, like, as this boy, he's bridging these two worlds.
Mhm.
And he grows up and finishes the book. And there's no more mention of mythology anymore. Like, okay, he has the crystal that allows him to
Mhm.
have a magnifying glass. Super. But he's not bridging the two worlds anymore when he grows up. There's none of that
Well, he kills
tension that was
Crumb
so important
Coral.
in the film.
Yeah. Yeah. Secret of Kells or Ratatouille.
That movie, Ratatouille?
That movie,
Ratatouille.
Have you guys seen that movie, Ratatouille? Secret of Kells or Ratatouille?
Ratatouille. That's
That
an easy
easy?
one for me.
Really?
Yeah.
That easy?
Yeah. I really like that movie. I really do.
Oh, I do.
And
too.
the fact that, for me, Secret of Kells was just an okay movie. It's an easy decision for me.
Secret of Kells.
I think that Secret of Kells was more important, but Ratatouille was more fun. And better made, maybe.
This is tough because this is. I think Ratatouille is. Actually, watching Wall-E and Ratatouille, I think Ratatouille is better. Just the idea that there's stuff in there.
It's also glass.
Yeah.
You yell at me for wearing my ring.
I think the idea that they could take, a rat and have the rat making food and make you empathize with that. It's just
Wall-E
amazing.
is a silent film that conveys emotions.
But Wall-E, there are problems with
and
Wall-E.
crazy. No, there are not.
Yes, there are.
Wait,
There are
this is the
problems with
discussion
Wall-E.
we're having. We're
Yeah.
having Book of Kells versus
Versus
Ratatouille.
Ratatouille.
Leave Wall-E out of
Ratatouille,
it.
Yeah.
Ratatouille may be Pixar's best film. I kind of oscillate between that and Finding Nemo.
I know that there's one of those things that's going to come down at this point.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, Steve is wrong.
Yes, it's right there. Like, Steven's high right now, so pay no attention to what he's saying. So I struggle with this a little bit, but Secret of Kells is just such. I don't know. Part of it is like you have this big, at this point, big studio who has all the resources they need to make an amazing film, and then you have this independent, sort of out of the blue movie
They had
who
to
does
work
something
really hard.
absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
But because
So
it
it's
was
sort of
hard
like-
for them, does that make it a better movie?
Not necessarily,
So-
but
And if it
That
was
shouldn't
that
be a deciding
great of a
I'm
story,
American, so
they
I
would've-
always go
See,
for the
root for the
underdog.
underdog.
Root for the underdog. You can't help it. It's
Root for the
culturally.
underdog and
So,
you have to
so-
make him in.
so you're a 1700s American? You're clearly not 21st century American.
No, we're not the underdog anymore. I vote Ratatouille. Even though I think that Secret of Kells is more important,
Yeah.
I think that Ratatouille was
You got
just...
two Ratatouilles
It
and
holds
Secret of
together
Kells.
better.
I think Secret of Kells is probably, after watching it, probably in my top 3 animated films of all time.
Whoa.
That's a statement and a half.
I'm putting that on my resume.
Yeah.
Brian said
That a film that I recommended.
Brian, yeah.
Don't even give my last name, just
With
write
the-
Brian.
with the qualification that Secret of Kells is probably the more important film, I would pick Ratatouille. Just because I think it's a more, there's more aspects to it that I think are
Well,
impressive.
zippity doo dah. You can make as many qualifications as you want. You chose Ratatouille.
Yeah, well, I'm choosing Ratatouille, but I just think that I think Secret of Kells is a more important film. But that's not necessarily the only qualification.
I wish Secret of Kells were better than Ratatouille. It's more important and it should be, but it's not.
Yeah.
That's kind of like
Although
my
at this
final...
point, my vote doesn't matter. So
What do you
Hold on,
mean?
you were the-
Your vote.
you-
Your
vote
vote was the
decided.
swinger.
wasn't
you
it
had
3?
decided.
It was
No,
3.
it was...
It was 2-1.
2-1. You just
Yeah.
switched it over to 3. So my vote doesn't
Oh, I
matter.
thought you already voted.
No.
Oh, you're going Ratatouille. I already know that.
Yeah, no, I'm probably gonna go.
So that's why my vote doesn't matter.
I was
Okay, so
trying to make it a little
Ratatouille.
suspenseful. Yeah.
Oh, dun dun dun.
Yeah, no, I would come to the modicum. Let's sum up about how we feel about these 2 movies. I thought Brave was very good. I really enjoyed it. I think it's continuing to show me that Pixar is making some of the best animated films. They're still very good quality. Secret of Kells is really impressive. That's the word that I would use. It was really impressive. I'm never going to forget it, but I can't say that I personally enjoyed it to the same nature that I did Brave.
I think Brave is a very good movie. It's not one of Pixar's revolutionary films. You know, it's not up there. It's not there with Up and Ratatouille and WALL-E, even though WALL-E has problems.
He can't talk, that's his problem.
Actually, it's the live action sequences that I really have a problem with. But as far as Secret of Kells, I absolutely love it. The first time I saw it, I was really reluctant to watch it, and it completely won me over. And the second time watching it through, I fell in love all over again. So it's a beautiful film that everybody should watch.
I tried watching it once before, a couple of months ago, when for around St. Patty's Day. We were talking about maybe going to see it, and I got about 20 minutes into it, and it was one of the few movies that I've intentionally said, okay, I'm going to stop it now because I was losing focus, and I'll come back to it. And we changed films before I got back to it, and I didn't think there was any great loss, no desire to go back and see it again. So when it came up again, I was like, okay, now I'll go see it, and it was better than I originally thought it was going to be. But for me, it just parts of it were too distracting. Good storyline, and it'll actually open me up to learning more about mythology and the history. And if it comes up, I may pursue saying, okay, what really is about this? Brave, I really enjoyed it, but more for the technical improvements. And that's what really got me on that. Yeah, it was funny, it was sad, but I really enjoyed seeing how well they've come with CGI.
The Brave is, yes, it's technically impressive, but the story is not as good as other movies that I've seen. And that pulled me out of the movie, and that is what deducted it, in my view, to some of the other movies that I've seen from Pixar, from any other studio, for that matter. But like I said before, Secret of Kells is probably in my top 3 animated films of all time, after one viewing.
So if you see it again, it might go down.
Probably won't.
Brave, I was really excited for, and I was a little disappointed that it was cliche. It was technologically, it was an excellent film, and the mother-daughter relationship was excellent, and the point where she didn't have to have a man to rescue her was lovely. I really enjoyed that. But it was just not quite the quality of story that I was expecting. Again, probably because we just have too high standards for Pixar, because they're too spectacular.
Yeah.
And the Book of Kells I enjoyed more than I thought I would. And I really liked the philosophical questions that they asked. I thought those were really important and really handled in an interesting way, but they didn't follow through well enough. And I felt like it wasn't cohesive enough. Just the difference between the foreground and the background drove me crazy the whole movie. And it's kind of an example of the way that I feel about the movie in general. I loved parts of it, and other parts really I felt like were way too flat and not dealt with well enough.
All right, we're going to tell you what we're seeing next week. Okay, so next week we are going to be seeing Moonrise Kingdom and Bottle Rocket. Moonrise Kingdom is Wes Anderson's newest film, and Bottle Rocket is his very first film. That's where we're pairing them up. Moonrise Kingdom is about two young children. It's kind of their first love, and they run away from town, and a search party has to go get them. Stars Bill Murray, Jason Schwartzman, Bruce Willis, Edward Norton, Frances McDormand, Tilda Swinton. So actually a lot of big names.
The Wes Anderson usuals.
Bruce Willis, Edward Norton.
No, not them, but
Bill Murray and
Bill
Jason
Murray
Schwartzman.
and Jason Schwartzman.
Well, they're in everyone he does. So yeah, like if you say that he's making a movie, I know Bill Murray and Jason Schwartzman are probably going to be in it. Owen Wilson's missing. He'll probably show up.
No, he's in it.
He didn't.
Oh, is he in it?
He's in it. Yeah,
he's in it. Of course he is. Yeah. And Bottle Rocket is about three friends who are trying to pull off a simple robbery and then disappear, starring Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson, and a guy named Ned Dowd.
So this is a week for you to watch the movies with your wife.
Yeah.
Both starring Owen Wilson. Not starring, but
yeah.
She hates one and loves the other. It's gonna be. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
I'm gonna turn to Annie Laurie to tell us.
Well, I really like the Fantastic Mr. Fox, but mostly for the animation. So I'm not sure how I'm going to like these films for the direction. I haven't seen either of them. So
have you
total
seen
surprise.
other Wes Anderson?
Nope. Just Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's like the more palatable of the Wes Anderson movies. So.
Which is why it's the only one I like.
Yeah.
And which is why I'm not looking forward to either of these movies.
I haven't seen the Fantastic Mr. Fox, and when it came out, I was like, it doesn't look like something I'd sit down and enjoy, but I've seen large chunks of a lot of his other things. But I haven't sat down to watch it start to finish. So I'm looking forward to Moonrise Kingdom, definitely. I've actually read a couple of articles about it. It looks interesting. The cast looks really good. But then I'm also curious about his first one from about 15, 16 years ago to see the difference.
Mm-hmm. I see Wes Anderson's directing style as if he looked at Stephen Wright comedy and said it's not dry enough. Let's see if I can make it drier. And that's like how he directs. And I've yet to see, other than Rushmore, movies of his that I didn't like. Yeah. Rushmore's a little over the edge of cynical for me. So that's the only reason I don't like it.
I just think Moonrise Kingdom looks a little bit more, in some ways, accessible. It actually looks a little bit more funny.
Yeah.
He's expanded the kind of the people that he's working with and brought in... I mean, Bruce Willis and Edward Norton seem so strange for his style. Maybe not Edward Norton, but Bruce Willis seems really strange for his style of directing.
Yeah.
I'm curious. And I've just also heard a lot about... this has been getting a lot of buzz, so I'm excited for it. And Bottle Rocket will be interesting. I think I want to go back and to see that comparison.
Yeah, that's one of his that I haven't seen, so I'm looking forward to that.
So, what do we do now? Right. Yeah. Okay, I got this. I can do this. Yeah. If you
changes are scary.
They are scary.
Fear change.
If you subscribe to us on iTunes or any other RSS feed, please leave a rating there. If you subscribe to us on Stitcher, we would really appreciate your vote. That makes a big difference for us. And you can check out therantpad.com to see what movies have influenced these guys and what they think about them.
We're on Facebook, Twitter. Leave us comments there. Good comments, please.
Terrible comments.
You can also leave us. You can also leave us varied movie reviews on either of those accounts.
You can download the audio file, listen to it in the car, or whenever it takes a train around here.
When you're
Spend
running?
some time in Long Island, or when you're running. There you go. It's
At work, that's
nice
right.
weather. Or the mini-sodes if you don't have time to sit and watch the full 45-minute episode.
So also check out our website. It's at www.buriedcinema.com. Kevin.
Your time's up.
Send us an email at buriedcinema@gmail.
Send us suggestions for buried films.
Yeah, that too.
We love to watch your suggestions. Unless it's Annie Laurie's, then we don't watch them. But
No.
next week we're doing Wes Anderson films.
I like movie.